Hi, my name is Malachi Juarez, and you're watching The Smoke Up. Before we get to the main show, I just want to make a minor correction to something I say later in the show. Uh, while discussing the most recent Mortal Kombat movie, I am I'm confused and annoyed with the idea of the Sub-Zero Scorpion rivalry being based on Japanese, Chinese politics, and I indicate that there is no prior connection of the Lin Kuei, the clan of Sub-Zero, with the Chinese. This isn't true. In fact, Sub-Zero has always been a Chinese character. He is a Chinese ninja. And I have the Wikipedia here. I'm just going to quote from it real quick. Um, In the games, the mantle of Sub-Zero is used by brothers Bi-Han and Kuai Lang. Bi-Han debuted as Sub-Zero in the original 1992 game before appearing in subsequent installments as Noob Saibot. Kuai Lang took the mantle in Mortal Kombat 2 and served as the franchise's main Sub-Zero up until Mortal Kombat 11. In Mortal Kombat 1, Kuai Lang became Scorpion. Sub-Zero was first conceived by Mortal Kombat co-creator John Tobias as a mysterious character simply named Ninja, and inspired by the book China's Ninja Connection by Li Hsing, which posits historical evidence for the existence of the Lin Kuei and their influence on the Japanese ninja. I was aware of there being some controversy about the author's claims, so when we split the character in two for palette swaps, I thought it would be fitting that one was of Chinese origin and the other Japanese to kind of embody the argument. According to Tobias, the original Hunter and Hunted concept was going to be about a ninja escaping from his clan and hunted by another member. We used that later for SZ for Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 3. Sub-Zero's early name was Tundra. Okay, so just to recap, Sub-Zero is Chinese, Scorpion is Japanese, and the original creators of Mortal Kombat were Orientalists who didn't really seem to care about mixing Eastern Asian cultures. And that's it. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. This is the Smoke Up. This is a show where I sit and I smoke weed with a friend. A shortage of friends lately, so I've been having to go out and find them. So today I'm smoking with you. You're under no obligation to smoke. It is purely.
I'll say I don't.
But yeah, you're in Texas. You get shot for that.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. I mean,
yeah, the police find you, they'll shoot you. That's what I've heard.
No, I don't know about that.
So this is the Smoke Up. My name is Malachi, and your name is Bjorn Does Movies. You want to do a quick little introduction?
Yeah, I'm Bjorn. I'm Bjorn Does Movies. You can just call me Bjorn. I write scripts and review movies, and also do cooking videos occasionally, and shit posts from time to time. So yeah, just kind of whatever.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's sort of like the stuff that I'm into the most, are like grab bag small YouTube channels, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I subscribed to you about like maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
What video? I'm curious.
I literally just see the amount of subs, and that's what makes me subscribe to people. If you're under 1,000 subs, it's an instant subscription from me. And then I kind of figure out your shtick later, you know?
Yeah.
And since you accepted the podcast, I had to like sort of try and find the stuff of yours that I found like the most interesting, sort of like get a good idea of you before coming onto the show. So I did watch, I watched the first like third of the Suicide Squad thing.
All of them, all fucking
the final version. And I watched your Roku video.
Oh yeah, okay. I could talk about that in detail. That's the most interesting thing that's happened.
I have that on the list. It's going to be coming up later. The first thing I wanted to do is start with like a little Yeah, I saw that the video. That video is awesome. Like the editing and the
Oh,
humor
I'm
is
bringing
great.
back that character. I've been working on a video. I'll tease it here, but it's called "What was the original plot of Madam Web?" I don't know if you've seen Madam Web,
I've
but the
heard
movie
enough
is a
about it.
it's a shit show. But the movie was very clearly chopped up and re-edited, and then they clearly added a lot of ADR. So the video is just
Okay.
me as the stupid detective character going back and trying to figure out what the actual plot of the movie was before they butchered it in edit, and it's really funny.
Wow.
I've had some fun with that.
I never I never heard that. I never knew that they actually had a different movie
So
shot.
I am convinced, and this is just from watching the movie, like more than any human on this earth, that the villain character in the film, none of the lines he says in the movie are the original lines. I'm fully convinced that they're all ADR.
Like they rewrote his whole motivation.
I think they rewrote the whole fucking film. I think the movie had a completely different plot, and they literally just had them stand in a booth and record lines to change the plot about like 4 months
That
before
is
release.
crazy.
I
Yeah,
have no
and
idea why.
we're gonna talk a little bit about Batgirl later.
Oh,
But
I'll
at the
talk about
top of
that.
the
Yeah.
show, I do want to like just point out the different, like the stark contrast between releasing a movie like Madam Web and shelving a movie like Spider Girl. You know,
It's
they're
yeah,
different
it's so
studios, of
strange.
course, but it's still like the practice is insane for
Oh, I
both
think
of
it's
them.
crazy. I think it's even wilder. I won't really talk about politics much because I try to avoid that. But the fact that we pay tax dollars to bail out studios to let them write out these movies, it makes no sense to me that that should be a thing. And I'm only coming at this from a guy who like does movies. My goal is to one day write novels, so I don't really ever want to get involved with Hollywood because it's a quagmire.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um,
I was even going to ask you about books too. Okay, so before we get too much into all that, let's
yeah.
talk a little bit about Suicide Squad 3. Okay.
Yeah,
Suicide Squad 3 is your best performing video.
for sure. Yeah.
And it is surreal to say the least, sort of like uh just going through all the characters. How many
Yeah.
characters did you have for that Suicide Squad?
Shit, man. 15, 16.
Yeah,
I
and
killed.
you like
Spoilers. I
specifically.
killed 90% of them, but
Yeah, I had a feeling it was something like that, and you specifically said like Suicide Squad should be just as many people as like you could get in the group as
when it's
opposed to
good,
these
yeah.
small ones. Yeah.
And
Um.
I think I say it in the video. I wrote that script because I saw the trailer for the now released Suicide Squad game, which was obviously a disaster. And I thought it looked so terrible that I wrote my own version of it. I figure you haven't gotten to the third act yet, but the third act of that script is the Suicide Squad killing the Justice League.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and so I wrote it just because I was so pissed off at the characters they picked because I'm a huge nerd, obviously. I was just mad. I was a little mad. I was like, yeah, I think I can do that better. So I tried, and that's why a lot of my content is me trying to do something I think I can do better.
Okay. Yeah, and I saw the Fallout video, but I didn't have time to watch it, so
I kind of canceled that series because I wrote that because I assumed the Amazon show was going to be bad,
and then it was
it
awesome.
was really awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, I literally made a video. I was just like, yeah, I don't really see the point in this. The Amazon show is better than what I'm writing, so I'm just going to stop. And I did. I swapped to a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the challenge that you were defeated in before it came to fruition.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to write that? I noticed that from the first part to the last part, it is a year gap. I didn't look at the exact dates.
Yeah.
But how long
So
did
it
it take
was
you to write
probably-
that script?
So that first script, I'd never written a script before. I wrote novels and short stories. So it took me forever. I wasn't really like working on the channel really. I was just kind of like doing that as a hobby thing. So I barely put any effort into it. After that, I got really fast. So I usually turn out a script in 2 months.
Okay.
But I do a thing. I like to call it my writing wheel. I explain this to people. I have like a writing lesson seminar, and I like to explain this to people. I burn out. I think everyone does
Yeah.
on stuff. So when I write projects, I tend to write 3 to 4 projects at once, and I will jump from one project to another project to another project to another project. So when I burn out on one, I drop to another one, then to another one, to another one, and by the time I'm back to the other one, I'm no longer burnt out on it, and that allows me to put out 4 scripts every year.
Yeah, that's sort of how I started developing because I do video essays on a different channel, And that's
Oh,
how I
badass.
started developing them later. Was I would be like, okay, I have these 6 that I'm planning on doing. I'm just going to work on a little bit at a time,
Mhm.
because you get like, I don't know, I aspire to be a writer, but I get like heavy dissonance sitting trying to write, my like almost like my brain and body is telling me not to do it, even though I want to do it. So
Ah,
like,
okay.
so I'll have moments where I like really like nail down like a few pages, and then the rest of the time I'm looking at it, I'm like, a sentence here. I've read some really good advice though since then, and I'll probably start getting back into writing about like, it doesn't matter how little you do, just do it. Because I feel like when I'm like pushed to that point, I'll stop writing for months. Like after that, I'll
Oh,
just be like,
I used to get that a lot. I don't so much anymore because now before I was doing YouTube, I was only writing books, and those are different. I write my genre of choice is fantasy, so like epic fantasy, like stuff like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Stormlight Archive, stuff like that. So I those books are long, so I've written like 100,000 words of a book, and by then you're done, you're burnt out hard, and you got to stop before you can finish it. So having these scripts is a really nice in between, basically for me. I
yeah.
write the books, I burn out on the books, I write the scripts.
So for
So
your
when
books,
those
oh
yeah,
no,
go ahead.
oh okay. When you are your books original IPs?
Oh yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's all I was gonna ask. What
everything
were
I
you
write
gonna
that's
say?
not on YouTube is original IPs. I was just gonna say that the YouTube thing was like when I don't put up a script for a couple months, I'm either in school or I'm writing books hard, and then you'll get a flurry of scripts released all at once when I'm
Right,
burnt out on
right.
the books. Yeah.
Have you gotten anything published yet?
No, I just finished a short story that I was finally decided was good enough to publish because I'd written stuff and I was just like, this isn't good enough. I kind of have an eye for it, and I'm shopping that around right now, and I've had some mild success with that. I think I'm gonna get it published pretty soon.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, the least anyone could say about your channel, just looking at it, is the channel alone. You're a prolific writer. You know, like you've written
Oh yeah, I try.
dozens of hours of scripts just for fun, and you know, like professionals, they spend years on these scripts, and it takes them years and years to write them usually, and all that stuff. But it's still like, one thing I find really interesting with small YouTube is the amateur realm is full of people who are like growing inside of these seed pods about to fucking like burst, in my opinion. You know, like everybody uh that I see is in these places are usually pretty young, like they haven't developed like a big network with like adult professionals in their lives quite yet, but
Oh
they're
yeah.
like grinding on the floor. And I feel like I see that in you a lot. I see that a lot with the last couple of people I've talked to, and the first guy I talked to, July Life Coach, he's like about to blow up
I
any day
watched
now.
I watched a part of that. He seemed very insightful and smart. I'll have to check
Yeah,
his channel out. I meant to actually go double back and do that. I
yeah.
watched like the first 30 minutes of that.
Oh, I
I
appreciate
didn't
that.
finish it though. I meant to go back and finish it. Yeah, I feel like writing though it's tricky when you're writing. So like I'll give a little details of my background. I won't like dox myself obviously, but a
Yeah.
lot of people are surprised when they learn about like what I do. I'm a rancher actually. I work on a hunting ranch.
Okay.
So a family ranch. So we do like African exotics, and we used to sell hunts, but now we kind of breed animals and then sell them to other larger ranches so they can have their own breeding populations.
Is that where you
So I
found the heads on your wall?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's Texas, so hunting is pretty normal here. But yeah,
Yeah.
these are all animals I've hunted.
Okay.
More when I was younger. I don't really do that anymore. It kind
Yeah.
of like when you're younger, it's all very exciting, and then
Yeah,
you
it
get
feels like
older.
fun and games until you experience life and you're like, I don't really want to
I still,
fuck with that.
I'm very much like I used to say like what the Native Americans do. I'm big on a lot of
Hmm.
Texans are big on practicality.
Yeah.
So I don't shoot trophies anymore. I've got 2 on my wall. I'm good. Or 3 technically. And then I'm like I shoot for meat now. So like I'll occasionally go out and I'll hunt something. Usually I kill predators if I'm gonna hunt anything. In fact, just right now we've got a mountain lion that I'm hunting.
Oh
So
wow. Has it been
yeah,
bothering with your guys'
it's been
livestock?
killing our antelopes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been killing our animals, and we found its footprints and we found a deer in a tree. Oh, mountain lion, great. So you do that. But
So
so
who's the type
it's
of
funny
guy
that
to
I'm
buy
running.
a exotic antelope?
It could be a lot of people. As I said, I just work there. I'm not really the guy who sells them. But there's large ranches here that people fly to Texas to come hunt. Like there's people who like to hunt.
Okay.
They're often very nice too. I've actually been surprised because hunters often have this reputation, and I get it usually comes from people who've never been around hunters. Just we're not common outside of certain states. Honestly,
Yeah.
like you
Well, I
guys
live in Colorado, so I think the
Oh, so you
closest
probably get it. Yeah.
yeah, I've been around one hunting community in Greeley, and yeah, it was just a lot of guns. Like just
Yeah, there's
a
a
house
lot
with
of guns, and I have a
in
lot
it.
of guns, but they're just
Yeah.
very nice overall. You get assholes, you do, but like
Yeah.
on the whole, people are very nice,
Every
and
group.
they In fact, this might also surprise people, and I like to talk about this because a lot of people, again, there's a lot of misinformation. Hunters are often really into conservation, and that sounds atypical and kind of odd because, again, on paper you're killing animals, but like for example, our herds we breed mass amounts of endangered animals. Like I don't want to dox myself, so I try to avoid mentioning specific species, but we have certain species that are extinct in the wild, and they were brought here 50, 60 years ago when they were not, and now
Okay.
they're kept here, and we breed them in mass, so we have lots of them. And so the only reason these animal species are still alive are because they're on these ranches, and they're in zoos, and they're in other places. And they've actually been reintroducing this particular species into the wild, scimitar horned oryx. I don't know if they're actually extinct in the wild anymore, but they were. So, yeah, I know a lot of the reasons they're still around in large numbers is because of ranches. And what you do is you sell a hunt every once in a while, but usually only to thin your herd. Because if you don't, then you overgraze, and obviously then you get the Dust Bowl.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
so it's interesting. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about animal management and stuff just from growing
Yeah.
up. But I don't do that anymore.
Well, and
So
I find that really interesting. You know, the idea that because I always find it intriguing whenever like a bad thing happens and it makes a good thing happen, and like
yes, yeah,
people definitely
not
consider
uncommon.
animal poaching and animal like
We've dealt with
husbandry
poachers.
of like endangered animals just like no bad, but them doing that was able to save multiple species after they went extinct.
And it wasn't poaching so much. So what it was these animals were brought over when they weren't endangered in the wild. Because obviously you're not allowed to bring over endangered
Right.
animals. They're super strict about that. And
Well,
I know in Africa they take
were poaching
really
laws really
seriously.
that strict like 80 years ago though?
I have no idea. Probably not, I would assume. But
shaking my butt.
still, though, the animals weren't extinct back then. But what's interesting is that, and yeah, I've always said, like, a good example I like to give of, like, animal management, like, why hunting can sometimes be good, is because in some ecosystems, humans are actually native predators, like Africa specifically. Recently, they prevented hunting on elephants for a long period of time because of a lot of interference, because obviously, they were endangered. But now they're not endangered, and you can research this. It's actually really interesting. They're wreaking havoc on Africa, like completely desolating it.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because they're mass numbers there, and they trample. They're big animals, obviously, and they knock over trees and they eat large amounts of foliage, and it's actually causing huge problems now. So now Africa is desperately trying to get hunters to go to Africa to shoot elephants.
Big elephant hunts.
The problem is that people in the West don't understand.
Yeah, so they're like, you motherfuckers going on elephant hunts.
So yeah, anytime someone takes a picture with an elephant they hunted, they get called a fascist or whatever.
Yeah.
and so it's, you guys, if anyone's watched this, listen to it. It's actually a really interesting conundrum because there's a happy medium because the elephant has no natural predators, and if you breed them out too much, then obviously no natural predators. They eat until they starve, which is what normally happens in the environment. But the problem is then they starve everything else in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but we can go back to writing. I just thought that was a fun aside.
No, that is really interesting, and that was like, I really love to learn about stuff like that. I actually have a special, close to my heart interest in biology and ecology. So that was really interesting to know, and maybe we could even do like but if you're already struggling to not reveal too much personal information.
Yeah, I try not to dox myself because I know how easy it is to do that.
Maybe I'll find an animal conservationist to interview.
Yeah, that might be a good idea because there's some interesting stuff, and I admittedly I am only aware of this through the lens of I worked at a hunting ranch. I know everything through that lens, and I'm sure there's other lenses than mine. That's usually how things work.
Yeah, so. I could probably explain to you like how the weed market in Colorado suffered from lowered prices and over over surplus of stock over the last few seasons of just everybody being able to grow it everywhere. And I
Oh
can
yeah, for
explain
sure.
how to grow it, but so
Mhm.
yeah. Were you surprised by the reception to Suicide Squad 3? Like the fact that everybody,
Um,
you got over like 2,000 views on your introducing your
Yeah,
characters
and that was
video?
that was over time. It wasn't extremely
Yeah.
popular at first. It grew.
Okay.
It was. I was surprised. I was really surprised by the feedback I got because a lot of people really liked that script, and so that
Yeah.
made me keep going because I was like, it was nice because as I said, I'd just been writing to myself. Like I wrote large amounts to myself, never really showed anyone because I was trying to get good. Like everyone
Yeah.
gets good at something, and then they
Yeah.
try to put it out there. So that was my first time really putting something out there. So the fact that people really liked it was super cool. I was a big fan of that. I don't think it's my best script. Some people say it is, but I don't think it is. I don't know what
Yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
probably not that.
I totally empathize with that. I understand that struggle. And like oh um what did you just say? Bad short-term memory. The thing you just said.
I had said that I was surprised by the reception to it because I'd never
Yeah.
published anything before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, yeah. So what I was gonna say is, it's really hard to take that first step to put your work out there, and
Mhm.
it in the YouTube environment, effort does not equal attention a lot of the time.
Absolutely not.
So
No.
yeah, like I have like a video essay I worked 3 months on, and it got 12 views, and then I have a friend on YouTube who he does like just it's like sort of vlog type content, and he's really into home movies and Frasier, so I did like a home movies Frasier like mash cut.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it got 20 times the views.
I feel that on a spiritual level. So I made a series of YouTube shorts. I could talk about this where I was just talking because I did a lot of research for Suicide Squad, obviously, into just really dumb characters, like characters that just by no means should exist. And so I knew a lot of them, and I was like, well, what can I do with this pointless knowledge? Oh, I'll make a series of shorts like what this character, how to fix this character. So I was just going through characters, like picking a really dumb character like human flying fish, like a stupid character that should
Yeah.
never exist, and then trying to fix them. And it's hard because why would this character exist? And then I put one up for, I don't know if you've ever heard of Snowflame. He's gotten
No.
kind of popular recently. He's a DC character. I actually kind of love him. I'm not gonna lie, but he gets his superpowers from snorting cocaine. And
That's awesome.
the more cocaine he snorts, the more he can light himself on fire. And so I made that video and I put it up. And then recently, I don't know if you've heard of Solid JJ. He's a guy who makes he does like dubs of comic and other characters.
No, I haven't heard of him.
He's a huge channel. He's got like 2 million subs, and he just like does witty dialogue. He did one about Snowflames with Hugbees, the YouTuber, and then that video exploded because it was in the recommended.
Okay.
It was the only other video on the platform talking about Snowflame. So that random short I put maybe 5 seconds of effort into exploded, and I was just like, well, fuck, man, why couldn't it be one of the ones I actually tried
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, exactly. It's not something you can get mad at because of the attention and the fact that it's your own work, but it is something that's ever present as a creative. And so with a lot of these like unknown superhero characters,
Oh yeah.
you have you ever heard of Catman?
Oh hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think
He was
that
public domain, right?
Yeah, he was, and then they Gail Simone revived him, and
Yeah.
made him serious. How do you feel about like a serious Catman? Like making him like straight serious after rebooting.
I will tell you this. I get it in my scripts a couple times. So the main character of my Suicide Squad scripts is a character called Clock King. And I unironically fucking love this character. I will preach the pages. Very much like Catman. I think there's potential there to be something great. So I'll vaguely give his backstory here. Basically, his origin is that he got diagnosed with cancer after being in the Marines, and then decides to go commit crimes by robbing banks in order to pay for his sister's future after he dies, only to then discover that he's been misdiagnosed with cancer. And that probably sounds really familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's the exact origins of Walter White, but it was written in the 60s. And they used him in one comic book ever, and then they never touched him again. And that character had the potential of Walter White
Yeah.
tapped right there. His
Yeah.
power is that he has perfect punctuation, which sounds really stupid. But when you actually stop and think about it, he has perfect timing for anything he can do.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really cool superpower. I don't know. I've just thought, like, how many of these guys like that have a really cool backstory and a cool power are just lost, and they have the potential of, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy or Catman, just laying around that no one is ever going to touch.
Yeah,
and
totally.
that's sort of what I wanted to go into.
And I think that's the thing, because I watched it with my sister, and she, like, I watched the character part twice.
Yeah, yeah.
And the second time I watched it with my sister, and she was like paying the most attention when you were hitting the wackiest ones.
There's some really wacky ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Beard Killer. Is that
Beard Hunter? Yeah,
Beard
real
Hunter,
character.
yeah.
Admittedly, he does come from Doom Patrol, which is an inherently zany comic run. So he was very much intentionally stupid and silly. I think he's even been in live action. They made a Doom Patrol TV show, and Beard Hunter is one of the main characters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even Deadpool was intended to be like a joke making fun of Deadshot, right? Like, wasn't it like literally like...
Actually, he was a ripoff of Deathstroke, Slade Wilson.
Deathstroke. Yeah, that's
and
it.
Even his name is Wade Wilson, which is ridiculously similar to Slade Wilson.
Yeah, like they were directly talking shit by making Deadpool.
Yeah, and he was actually originally serious. That's what surprised me the most. I went back and read Deadpool's first comic a couple years ago. He's very self-serious, and that was so surprising. The goofy character part came later.
Yeah, so it's like the whole meta of them just making fun of Deathstroke was the joke for them. They didn't have to go any further. But and so that is interesting. So that's an example of a character that was made less serious in their extreme popularity.
Later iterations. That happens from time to time. A lot of characters in these comic spheres are ripoffs. Like Aquaman is a ripoff character of Namor the Submariner, who was recently featured in, I think, Black Panther or something. But he was Marvel's first superhero, and then Aquaman ripped him off years later and became more popular. There's a bunch
Which
of
is funny because
like
Aquaman's a terrible design.
I'm a big Aquaman apologist. I think he's kind of cool. I'm a fan.
When will they make a redhead Aquaman?
I don't know, man. I'll play him. I'm a redhead.
You got it.
There. Pat me and coach. I'll go for it.
You could do a bit. You're Aquaman.
Yeah, I've got the body
you're reviewing Aquaman.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on from, and we kind of actually, it's funny because the beginning of our conversation actually answered a couple of the later questions I had. So,
sorry.
no, it's perfect because it was so much smoother than the way I interview. It's like me like letting someone talk, engaging, and then being like, okay, so, and then staring off into space for 30 seconds until I look at my script and ask the question I've written down. It's much better that you bring it up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, and here I go. The Roku thing. I want to talk about the Roku thing.
Yeah.
So I watched a video earlier about Roku, a user on Roku stealing your content. Let's go into that.
Max
I want you
Sharma,
to summarize
if I remember.
Yeah, Max Sharma.
Which is not his real name. He's some guy in I think he's in India or China. I can't remember. It was China, wasn't it? It was Shanghai. Because I figured out. I don't know if you watched the second part. Because if not, I can.
I didn't get to it. I watched it right before
second part, I figured out that this guy, they fucked up. So in the legal contract, I missed it while making the first video, but I found it while making the second video. They fucked up the contract, and they left a typo in, which led me to I saw another app called Free TV Club, which looked auspiciously similar to that other one, which was like Real Chill or some shit. I can't remember. Yeah,
I think it was Real Chill.
They left a typo in the Free TV Club contract that I read, where they switched the E and the A in Real Chill and left it in, because when they did their search and replace, they left the Real Chill in there, like a bunch of idiots.
Oh, okay, so it's the same contract?
So this contract, they weren't stealing content on this website. They made a separate one, Real Chill, to steal content without getting caught. But the second contract had all of the company information in it. So I tracked it back. It's a subsidiary of Tencent. I don't know if you've heard of Tencent.
I know. Yeah, I know Tencent.
And TLC and Tencent did a joint venture called Falcon Inc. Unlimited or some shit. It's a really dumb name. I had a whole segment making fun of the name. But Falcon is the parent company of the company that owns Real Chill. So I figured out that they were basically either they were lying about who their subsidiary was, or Tencent took down my video, which is crazy, or stole my video. So I filed a cease and desist to Roku.
Yeah, I do wonder.
And got them removed.
I wonder if there are like sort of like bot farms that are just because they're a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary that like they exist as a company purely to scam people, but they're connected to bigger companies like that.
I think there's a lot of free TV content on like Roku that's stealing shit. I know for a fact I was not the only person whose videos were being stolen on Real Chill. I saw several videos of people who I'm assuming were either unaware or didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
I talked about that in the video.
And you did mention that, and I feel like if that happened to me, I would probably just be like, what the fuck, and tell my closest friends, and then that would be the end of it. But you did like a whole little investigation, and you did it in like a noir detective style.
Yeah.
Did you do both voices in the video, or was that a friend helping?
Oh no, my buddy is Sam. He's my podcast buddy. He did the voice. Yeah. So Sam did the like when he was like, "Hey, Bjorn." Yeah, that was him.
Okay. That was very good. Very good bit between you two.
I complimented him on that too. Yeah, I've known him for years. So yeah, I think the reason so what I found with that whole thing actually blew my mind. I was shocked that Tencent was behind it. I assumed this was some nothing company, and I'm still not even 100% convinced it was actually Tencent. I still think they might be lying about what's in their contract, I wonder if they took a contract from online and just replaced some of the things in it with their thing and then put it on theirs.
What if they're just stealing Tencent's contract?
Exactly. I genuinely wondered if that was it, but I could be wrong. There's no way to know. But being able to put League of Legends characters in the thumbnail was too good to pass up. So, yeah, I think so I managed to. I don't know if since you didn't watch part 2, I didn't get to this. I filed the cease and desist, and I got Real Chill taken down. It's from no longer on Roku.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually had to bounce between a couple different people at Roku, and then I was able to file it with the right person. And so I emailed a bunch of Roku employees. This is a long time ago, so I don't really remember exactly.
You personally found their emails?
Yeah, well, I started with the like support group, and then they bounced me to the correct person. They bounced me to the correct person, who then sent me a cease and desist form. I filled it out. The thing that bothered me, and I could talk about this for cease and desisting, and this is a common tactic I've since discovered. I had to put my real information on that shit. Those fuckers at Real Chill have my docs, and I figured it was worth it because it pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. They got a lot more views than my video, I'm assuming, and I know they were doing it to other people. Again, like people like you who said you wouldn't know what to do or how to go. So I was like, fuck this. I know what to do. I just went familiar with this stuff vaguely, so I went ahead and just did it. And I've not been doxxed, but Max Sharma out there, he knows.
Yeah, he knows.
He's got my ass.
Yeah. Your mortal enemy, a man whose
my nemesis, Max Sharma. He's not a real person. Yeah. It's a fake name.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cardboard cutout of a man in an empty office somewhere.
I did find, so he did have an account on the Roku forums, and I sent him a bunch of private messages. I called him I told him to stop stealing my shit.
Yeah, I saw that was very funny video. Him. Like I really wish I wish there was like a way to like check the effort box in the YouTube when you upload something. Like I put more effort into this.
That was actually one of the easier videos I've ever made on my channel. The only thing that really took a while was
because you write like 3 hours of a fucking movie for your other content.
Yeah. My normal video takes like a week or two to write, and then like a day or two to edit. Yeah. So the Roku video I did in 2 days, and then the thing that took the longest was making that cork board full of red string.
You know, I really respect you for only using it for a single shot. That shit was perfect. Like you used it for the one bit and then in.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of gags hidden in it, obviously. Like, I found that popcorn company.
Yeah.
Because they had a subsidiary called Tiny Kernel, which turned out to be a popcorn company.
Yeah. That one really impressed me. It felt like a video that you would find from fucking, like, it felt like CopyZilla type shit, you know?
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't do that kind of content. I mean, I
Yeah, no,
did it
fuck
this
that.
one time because
Yeah,
it was
dipping your
funny,
head
but
in
like,
a
I'm not as good
toilet
as
every day.
CoffeeZilla. That guy is super detailed. Like I
Yeah,
missed the fucking typo. I should have caught that typo. The fact that I didn't actually drives me crazy. Um, so uh, luckily I caught it later, or else that mystery would have never been solved. But
yeah,
yeah, well, I won. It was very satisfying. I felt very satisfied
yeah.
getting that channel
I
removed.
think that's a win. I think that's a win.
I think
Uh,
I'll tell you this also. Years later, like a year later, I went to the Roku forum because I check every once in a while to make sure it hasn't been reinstated. And there was some guy in there like, "What happened to Real Chill?" And I sent him that GIF of Reverse Flash going, "It was me, Barry." So some guy just randomly got a GIF from me.
from the man who took down the website he's asking about. That's
Yeah.
really funny. I wonder if there's like some like residual impressions from seeing that thumbnail on people. Like, and one day they're going to look at your channel and they're going to be stricken with a deep sense of deja vu and have no
Oh,
idea
like that
why
they've
the
seen
hell
my
they feel that
content.
way. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
honestly, I wouldn't have even cared that much if the guy had credited me.
Right.
Like, he
He
stole
probably
my
could have shot you
thumbnail.
an
He
email.
went to YouTube and downloaded my thumbnail.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you couldn't. I think it was a review for Cocaine Bear of all things
Yeah. Cocaine
that he
Bear.
stole. Yeah, very silly. I don't know the situation. I enjoyed it. I'm kind of glad it happened because I got to make. I got to farm it for some funny videos. So
Yeah.
it all worked out.
Yeah, it was more of like a wrongdoing, like in a like honor sense than an actual like
Oh yeah,
hurt
no.
you. But I think that you probably hurt them a lot more in the end because you took
Oh,
down their
I
fucking
bet I
little
didn't.
content
Honestly, I
mill.
suspect they just immediately made another channel
Maybe,
under a different name, and
maybe,
they were really careful not to steal my content ever again.
or they have
I've not
multiple
seen my
ones
stuff
going
stolen.
on already.
Yeah, I check from time to time because I think it'd be really funny to do another one.
Right.
But yeah, nothing's happened. So I think they learned their lesson on that.
So I wanted to talk about movie reviews
Yeah,
and
sure.
your philosophy behind them. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, first question, do you ever worry that you're going to be the only one who likes a movie when you like do you
Oh, I have been. I
yeah.
have been.
How does
Yeah.
that feeling make you? You're good
I
with
don't really
it?
care. I'm pretty honest. I try to be pretty honest in my fans. My favorite kind of movie, and I'll talk about this because this is a series I've never uploaded, also that I've recorded and just never done anything with. I love shitty movies. Like it's
Same.
one of my favorite things. I'm sure you've done these like bad movies. I've seen every single one of them. If there's a bad movie that people watch, I have seen it. I would almost guarantee it. So I started doing this series for a while where I would go to like Dollar Tree. You ever seen those like 100 horror movies in one pack? And there's
Yeah.
like 100 really shitty movies. I did a show called Bargain Bin Bullshit. It's not out yet. I'll put it out at some point. Where I just spun a wheel and watched movies off those fucking combo packs, and I reviewed them hoping to find something that would be funny. And so I've reviewed really shitty movies. I've reviewed good movies. And after a while, I just realized I don't really care what other people think. I've had people shit talk me in the comments. I'm just like, whatever, man. I'll usually say something funny in reply. I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I think the key is like a movie review shouldn't have any real sway unless you listen to what I say and think, hey, he's on to something with this review. Honestly, I think you should always or unless I tell you at the beginning of a review, do not go see this movie. I've only done that 3 times, I think. You should go and form your own opinion. I think movie reviews are great to see if it's worth your time. But beyond that, you should always watch a movie if you're really interested and just make your own
Yeah.
opinion because you might disagree with me, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't worry about that.
I think one big thing that happens is like people are like, "Oh, I didn't like this fucking space movie. It didn't make any sense. It had too many plot holes."
Yeah.
And then I'm just all like, "Well, how much of space did they show? Were there aliens?" Like, and
Yeah.
so I'm thinking from like a different perspective a lot of the time.
You're
And
talking about
so,
like suspension of disbelief, where
well,
like things are inherently not going to make sense in
no,
fiction. So you
I'm
have to.
yeah, well, I'm talking about people who sort of they try to look at movies sort of like it's a recalling of a thing that happened, like in a very like literal materialist type of
Oh,
way,
like
instead
nitpicking,
of
sort of.
what was yeah, well, kind of, but like okay, so the way I view movies is they're sort of like it's like a whole bunch of ideas put together, and everything's sort of like symbolic, even when a movie writer doesn't even usually like intend it to be sometimes. So like to look at a movie and try to find plot holes and stuff doesn't like make sense to me because they're not it's not real like life, you know, like you're like when you analyze a movie it's more like about themes and about symbolic references and like the overall moral of a movie and stuff like that, and like content, you know. So like if I hear a movie review that's like, yeah, this movie was bad, the aliens they just didn't make any sense, that makes me want to watch the movie, you know.
Well, yeah, and there are some times where I would say there are some times where opinions like that are valid. If like a movie is entirely about one alien species and that alien species makes no fucking sense,
Yeah,
obviously your movie's gonna it's about.
yeah,
And I can tell you because I've seen movies like that. But also, I get what you're saying, and I totally agree. I think a lot of movies, and we can talk about like the state of modern movies. I can talk about this for hours. Especially comic book movies. Like Jesus Christ, man.
yeah, I
I
haven't
think the
seen
worst
enough
thing a
of
movie can be is
those.
boring. Like the worst thing a movie can be is boring. If it's
Yeah,
so bad, it's
yeah,
entertaining. That's fucking badass. If
yeah.
it's so good, I'm entertained. That's great. If it falls in that like mediocre valley, like no one wants to see that shit.
Mm. Yeah, and I
So
feel like the that mediocre valley is like a lot of the movies that don't have symbols behind them and aren't trying to like sort of like push something. It's like Hallmark movies, or you know, a lot of um um it's a really good example.
like a
Uh,
cookie cutter movie.
yeah, sort of like have you ever seen like any rom-com?
Yeah, I mean some
Yeah.
of those are good. They're,
Yeah,
I know what you
but
mean.
the ones
You talk
that
about like I'll
aren't
Be Home for
like
Christmas starring on the
yeah,
Hallmark Channel, or Home
yeah.
for Christmas, or Jingle at Christmas. Yeah, where
Exactly.
they're the
And
exact
it's
same
just
fucking
like a
movie.
very
Yeah,
like this guy does this
soulless.
thing and talks to this person type of thing. Like I feel like
Mhm.
a good rom-com movie or romance movie is more like a like something that sort of like is more heady, you know.
My go to for rom com. I don't even know if you can call this a rom com. It's I think it's Internal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or it's the
I
other way around.
just watched that with my
I
partner for the
fucking
first time.
love that. I love that movie, and
It is
it
awesome.
subverts a lot of the tropes of a
Yeah.
romance movie,
Like
and I
I
think
think
that's what
that's
makes it so good.
exactly what like I think that's what makes a good fucking movie. And I feel like a lot of people when they're like if like a movie reviewer that like is like into rom-coms and that's their like thing that they do, they would probably not be too into that. And I don't know if I have anything to substantiate that with, and I'm talking mostly on vibes, but I feel that. Um
Yeah, I'm just kind of I'm really down for anything. There's very few genres I don't like. One genre I don't like, romance, like solid romance movies. Like I don't usually find them very engaging. There can be good ones, but they tend to be like I'll talk about a movie I irrationally hate. Oh, what the fuck is it called? Oh, it's got oh fuck. It's like a time traveling lake house.
I think it's
Oh,
just called The Lake House.
like is this the one where they time travel and like write letters to each other?
Yeah, it's like a there
Yes.
the mailbox. There's like a mailbox.
Yes. I hate the ending of that movie so fucking much because it was almost so interesting. I rant
Okay,
about this movie a lot.
now endings. I will hate a movie over an ending even if it's the best movie in the world.
Yeah,
Like
they set up this like causal loop time travel, then undo it at the end for the happy ending, and it pisses me off. It's a movie. It's stuck with me because I don't like the ending that much. It's like irrationally made me
yeah,
angry.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I feel like I've watched quite a few things like that. But so what's your favorite genre?
fantasy, absolutely.
Okay,
Movies and fantasy genre don't tend to be great.
yeah.
TV
Have you
shows.
okay?
It's about like shooting
So let's
blindly.
see if
But
our feelings align on the most some fantasy movies. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings.
I
Have you
love
seen
Warcraft.
Warcraft? Did you like Warcraft? Did you think that was bad?
I watched Warcraft. I thought it was mediocre, but I've never played the game, so I have no connection to the
I
franchise.
played the game, but I really liked the movie, but I liked it because it was like really shiny.
It's been a long time since I've seen that, though. I think I saw that when it came out, and I was young.
I thought
But
Lord of the Rings was really boring when I tried to watch it.
really,
Yeah.
I would recommend retrying that. They're very
Okay.
good. They are slow.
I tried
They
I
build.
got like halfway through the first one. I was all like, I don't know if this is worth it, and I stopped
So I
watching.
think it is. I will say it is worth it. Do not watch the extended edition. A lot of nerds will tell you to watch the extended edition.
Okay, I think that's where I messed up. That's
You have to watch the extended editions. The extended editions all this shit from the book. And here's what ends up happening to people who've never been into the franchise before. The extended editions, that shit was cut for a reason. Now I'm a huge fan. I've seen them all, and I love the extended editions. But that only works if you're like in for a penny, in for a pound. For a new watcher, I would definitely recommend a theatrical cut every time. And
okay.
you'll always get the wrong advice on that because of nerds.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll
sure.
do that next time. I think I'll do that next time.
I
So,
recommend
okay.
that, yeah.
So what's another fantasy movie? Okay,
I thought recently Dungeons and Dragons was shockingly great.
that was good. That was a really good
so hard, it
movie.
made me so sad. It killed. So one of my favorite book series of all time is Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. In fact, I just started a writing series on this. It's a series of interconnected fantasy books. So it's like wildly different fantasy worlds with completely different magic systems, and they cross over almost like Marvel, but very different. It's super unique. His stuff is incredible. And a Mistborn movie, which is his flagship series, was almost in development, and like they were casting and everything. And then Dungeons and Dragons flopped, and I'm 90% sure it killed the project.
Which is crazy because that movie
They
was
don't
so
know the
good.
difference between Dungeons and Dragons and like a serious epic fantasy. Like they don't. I'll tell you how out of touch studio people are, but they don't realize. Like they're all trying to chase Game of Thrones, but they don't realize that what made Game of Thrones good was how well it adapted the books. And if they would just pick other popular fantasy books and adapt them well, then they
Yeah.
can have a hit. It doesn't have to have sex. It doesn't have to have gore. I mean, those
Yeah.
things don't hurt if you're adapting the right franchise. But
You
they,
know what
they get
franchise?
they for the forest.
You know what
the
franchise
Forest
I
Features.
always like read as a kid that I wanted to see was Redwall. Did you ever read the Redwall books?
Not. I have never heard of them actually.
It's the first book is called Redwall, but it's like a series of like I don't know, like 20, 30 books, and it's all like a fantasy world of like small animals. Like they're like
Interesting.
they're like anthropomorphized animals, but they're like animal sized, and it's like all the rodents are the people, and the bad guys are like the hawks and the mean animals. And
That sounds like I read a book series called like Owls of Gahoo or some shit. when I was a kid.
Guardians of Gahul. I've read that.
Yes, that shit.
I read that
I read
because
that
I
shit
liked
when I was a kid.
Redwall. Redwall was like
Okay.
really good when I was little, and I think Amazon could probably do a really good Redwall series if they. put in
I
the
still want
CGI.
Amazon to do Mistborn. I will. I'm a ride or die like dick writer for Brandon Sanderson. Like I'll own up to this. I love that guy, and I like a lot of other books. Like I did a whole series on my channel actually, just giving Hollywood ideas for free of like obscure to semi-obscure things they could adapt, like Mystery Flesh Pit. I did Loch Lamora, a bunch of other books and series. Mystery Flesh Pit would be a fucking awesome show or movie if someone would pick that up. It's an internet franchise about a super organism underneath Texas that the National Park Service built a park inside of, and then one day it swallows, and all the people inside are like trapped inside the
Okay.
intestines of like a big worm. And the whole thing is written like a horror novel, like Jurassic Park, as people try to escape this complex inside a giant organism. It's really creative, super original, and I was just like, yeah, this would be a fucking awesome horror movie if someone would adapt it. And I did a bunch of other book series like that, or things I'd heard or picked up that I just thought would be cool to make stuff out of. I'm still 0 for 10. Nothing I've ever suggested has been made into a movie yet. We'll see.
What's the worst adaptation in your opinion, like of anything?
Avatar: The Last Airbender. That movie, but actually
the movie M. Night Shyamalan
the movie, yes, but actually the new Borderlands movie I saw like 2 weeks ago might actually be the worst adaptation I've ever seen. That was fucking horrible. That was an abomination. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, aesthetics, seeking aesthetics.
A lot of people
over
are
everything.
gonna say things like Rings of Power, and like, yeah, it's bad, but it's not like it's nothing compared to some of these other
Was
things.
Rings of Power
Lord of the Rings
actual adaptation, or wasn't it original?
They like bought the rights to like a scrap of paper Tolkien wrote apparently. I don't know the details on this, so don't quote me. This is just what I've
Yeah.
heard through the grapevine. And then they adapted from that, but they heavily altered like Tolkien's entire vision. Like it's really bad. It's also just poorly written and just kind of stupid. It falls
Yeah.
into a lot of tropes of modern writing and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I think the word, you were so quick on that like now I'm like I don't even
I've
have
thought
time.
about this.
Yeah, I don't even have time to think about my worst. Probably Mortal Kombat. I really like Mortal Kombat. It's not a book
Which
adaptation,
one?
but
There's like 3 of them.
every single Mortal Kombat movie has been such a massive disappointment to me. Like,
I kind of like the first 15 minutes of the most recent one. And that's really about it.
I didn't, because they made for some reason the like beef between Sub-Zero and Scorpion like related to their ethnicity. Like, it was weird. Like Sub-Zero was Chinese.
What? I don't remember that.
And he
Really?
mentions it. Yeah, in their fight he mentions being Chinese, and Scorpion
In fairness,
is
the Japanese and the
Japanese.
Chinese really do hate each other.
Yeah, it's like supposed to be like
assume.
a Japanese-Chinese beef, but it's never like that in Mortal Kombat. They're both just Japanese
I
guys.
don't really know the lore of Mortal Kombat. I just kind of thought it was cool that they were samurai for a second. And
Yeah.
what I remember thinking was weird was that the movie followed some random guy who wasn't a character in the original game. What was up with that?
That's the same problem they do with that's a big problem with every single like I think like
What did they do that?
video game adaptation. Like, I know Sonic did well, but I think Sonic would have done better in my mind if Sonic was like the main character and he didn't have Pete the bus driver as a sidekick the whole time, you know.
You have to have a human. I mean, we've learned this from Godzilla movies. You have to have the humans that you cut to be annoying while you want to cut back to the big monsters killing you. Because CGI is expensive.
Yeah,
That's the real reason behind it. That's the reason why the Smurfs go to New York City instead of being animated Smurfs the whole time.
Yeah, and they had to pay for Sonic's animation twice.
Yeah, I forgot about that. yeah, they're lucky they did. Chris Chan would have come for them if they hadn't.
Okay, you've thought about this a lot. Top 5 movies.
Oh, this is a hard one for me. I don't even know if I can answer that. I can give you some of my favorite movies. I don't know if I can put them in order. Jurassic Park.
They don't have to be in order.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, the original one. Fight Club. Citizen Kane is probably my favorite movie of all time. I know that's the generic answer, but it's one of like 2 movies that ever make me cry. It's my first watching of Citizen Kane. Genuinely heartfelt movie. Ooh. I might say The Suicide Squad just because I genuinely love that movie. It's not one of the best movies ever made. It's just a movie I genuinely like. Clearly I like it. But I can't even say that because it shouldn't be in my top 5. It just is. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's just it
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and then probably something like Shawshank Redemption or maybe The Dark Knight, something like that. Kind of a generic list, but I find that really a hard question to answer because you're in different moods for different. Oh no, The Thing from John Carpenter is in my top 5.
That's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I think it gets a little messy towards the end, and it feels a little bit like Slapdash, but I
like the movie if you watch it in the context that the main character at the end is the Thing, and he's been tricked into drinking a Molotov cocktail. I think watching it with that lens, it's a fan theory, but it's one I buy into.
Okay.
The guy does at the end of the movie, he hands him a bottle, and the guy drinks from it, but it's the Molotov cocktail from the beginning of the movie. It's filled with diesel, and the Thing doesn't react. The guy doesn't react to drinking it because he is the monster, and the other guy laughs because he realizes he's lost. And if you watch it with that in mind, it's an awesome ending, and it kind of pulls the whole thing together.
Yeah,
but that's
really
just a fan theory.
Yeah, sometimes fan theories really do that. Yeah, I haven't seen Citizen Kane.
That's an amazing movie. It's for film history. It's interesting. It's the first movie to ever move the camera, from what I understand. So it's the first movie to ever use like a dolly. So it was like cutting edge at the time. But the movie itself, unironically, holds up really well. It's just a character study. It's basically, and I won't spoil it because it does have spoilers.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
No. Yeah, so it's basically interesting. It's a story of a guy called I think his name is Kane. I can't remember I should know this, but he dies and whispers his last word is Rosebud. And the movie follows an investigative journalist trying to figure out this guy's life and figure out why his last words were what they were. And then the whole movie is just a character study into this really flawed, kind of nasty guy. And you peel back the layers of him until you're like really into who he is as a man, and then you start to understand what his like deal is. It's a really great movie, especially for when it was made. It's unbelievable that it was made when it was.
Okay.
It feels like it could come
I'll
out
definitely
today.
check that out. I also haven't seen Jurassic Park.
Oh, that's a hot take. Wow. That's one of my favorite movies ever. I've watched that movie. I had that movie on VHS tape when I was like 8 years old. I watched the shit out of that
The
movie.
only part I remember is the little cup scene. I think I saw it as like a 5-year-old or something.
Yeah, I watched that movie a lot, and it got me really into dinosaurs. I went through a whole dinosaur phase. I think a lot of kids do, but I went through a bad one. I still know all their names.
So, how do you? So you've seen The Thing. So are you into like those schlocky horror movies? Have you seen The Fly?
Oh yeah. Yes, yeah, the Jeff Goldblum one or the original?
The Jeff Goldblum one.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
How do you feel about that one?
I think it's a great remake.
Yeah,
I think it's body horror. And I like a lot of it. It's such an original idea. Yeah. And I think I'll talk about this. So that movie is a remake, and so is The Thing. But they're both remakes of movies that are wildly different and arguably were kind of bad. I have not seen the original Fly, but I've heard the original Thing is pretty bad. So I think a lot of people hate remakes now. And I think that's such a shame because some of my favorite movies ever are remakes.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is, for some reason, remakes have changed from taking a subpar movie that had potential and making it good to taking a movie that's already amazing and making it worse. And I don't know how that's come about or why. But whenever I see a remake now, I'm like, oh no. Because it just means it's going to be bad. But again, they used to be amazing.
Yeah. I think it's out of touch Hollywood shit. Like, they have it on a piece of paper that the last time they released this story, it did really good. So if they release it again, it's going to do great again. Who cares what the actual story is?
It does do great again, but I think it slowly but surely dries up goodwill.
Yeah, exactly. It destroys the audience's goodwill.
Yeah. And I think they're gonna reap what they sow soon. I wish I was a producer. I could be in this room to just shake their shoulders like, guys.
Okay, I have my top 5
You're
list.
running these IPs into the ground. You've got to make new IPs, whatever. But yeah,
steal old ones. Steal old ones, because that's what Hollywood started on stealing IPs. Just keep doing the same thing, but do it better.
Adapt books. There's so many good books that no one's adapted yet. It's so weird. I don't know. I'm so mad about everything in Hollywood right now.
Okay, so number 1, Holes. Have you seen Holes?
Holes, yes, the movie about kids in the desert. I actually love that movie.
That's one of my top movies. I really like the whole dealing with youth incarceration.
I remember that movie being really good. Yeah.
It's so good. Rewatching it as an adult, it's like, fuck, this is still just as good as the first day I saw it. And it deals with youth incarceration.
No.
And it deals with like corrupt adults. And I think that was the first story I ever saw as a kid that dealt with like corrupt adults in like a really real way. Because I have lots of people like that in my life, and like seeing them actually on a TV is like actually like a trip. When everybody in movies are usually like these very like gleamy, kind of glossy, glazed up cupcakes that don't actually look like real people or act like real people. Everybody in Holes feels so real, and the movie feels so real, and it has like this
actually
destiny angle at the same time that makes it surreal.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember I saw it a bunch as a kid. And I remember being surprised. I know it's based on a book, too. So I've always been curious to read the book. Because I'm curious how much of that, as you said, realism characters comes from that book.
Yeah, I think I read the book after it the first time I saw the movie. And it's a lot of just the same story. I think it was very well done adaptation. And that's why the movie did so good.
That's what you want. They didn't, like an adaptation that changes as little as possible, but only changes to make it fit better into a medium.
Yeah, and they didn't pull away from the story for even a second. Like, there's a black character gets lynched in the book, and that happens in the movie.
I got to rewatch Holes. I don't fucking remember that.
Yeah, a black character gets lynched.
Man, they used to take a lot of risks. Yeah,
they did. Even Pirates of the Caribbean was such a huge risk, and then it eventually became such a safe bet. It's weird how all that happens. Okay, Jack Frost.
The horror movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
Then 1997 children's film.
I don't think I've ever seen it. There's a
It's
horror
Michael
movie called Jack
Keaton.
Frost about a killer snowman
Yeah,
that eats people. And I've
uh,
seen that.
one of my online friends, someone I'm hoping to have on the show, one of his favorite movies is the other Jack Frost. But
But I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but
I'm
it's a
gonna
film I've seen.
describe this movie to you and show you a picture of the
Oh yeah.
cover. So this movie is about a boy whose father dies in a tragic car accident, and he's resurrected the next Christmas as a snowman.
I have seen this movie. I cannot remember anything about it, but
Yeah.
I've definitely seen
Here's
the
a
movie
picture.
with that
Maybe
plot.
it'll that's
Yeah,
Michael
yes, Michael Keaton. I
Jack
have
Frost.
seen this movie. I don't remember anything about it. I love the tagline though. He's the world's coolest dad.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
And he's dead the whole movie. He's just dead, which makes it one of the best kids movies ever created.
So wait, is Michael Keaton voicing a snowman the whole
Yeah,
movie?
he's voicing a snowman the whole movie.
That reminds me of like Kevin Spacey movie 9 Lives, where he voices a cat the whole
I
movie.
downloaded that, and I plan to watch it one day.
It's terrible, but it came out right before he became all the allegations
Before he was
came
the sex
out
crime
and
man.
aged like wine.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah, same here. Actually, I
And-
plan on doing a Star Wars writing series in the near future.
I can't have all of Star Wars on my top 5 list, so I chose my favorite Star Wars movie, Rogue One.
Oh, interesting. That would not have been my pick, but I can see why you would like it.
Yeah, it's my favorite Star Wars movie because it's like it subverts like a lot of expectations you have for Star Wars. You know, all the main characters. Spoilers. All the main characters die by the end of the movie.
Have you seen Andor yet?
I have. It's so brilliant.
Andor was my favorite Star Wars thing, probably. That's not a movie, but
Yeah,
I loved that. And what a surprise that turned out to be.
yeah, it was.
I had
so
no
good.
expectations for it.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and then they bring up your hopes so high, and then you get something like The Acolyte, which I haven't watched all of, but I was disappointed by the.
I
premiere.
watched the first 3 episodes, and I was good. I didn't need to see anymore.
I have to finish it because I feel like there's
I would
something
recommend
in there I
pirating
really
it
like.
so they don't get the viewership. It's like, show them you don't want to watch it, pirate it.
Well,
and
you
then
know, I
don't give
consider
them
myself a
numbers.
very loyal consumerist, and so you know, I pirate very liberally. That's all I will say on the record.
I pirate when it's easier, but it is. I pirate also when I want to watch something to make fun of it, but don't want to actually support it because it looks like shit.
Well,
So
and I
I've
think
done that, yeah.
I think there's a strong argument to be made for film preservation, especially like with everything going to digital, and CDs. They have a shelf life. All these people with these CDs with these movies on them that aren't as popular, they're gonna die eventually. They're gonna be incapable.
I'll
of
say
playing.
this: if I ever publish books, and this can be on the record or whatever, I'm fine with people pirating my books. But if you enjoy them enough that you would keep reading the series, buy the next one.
Books. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm fine with people who can't afford my book pirating it, because I'd rather just have my art seen by people, frankly. Now, it's nice to make money, because, you know, boys got to eat. But
I'm definitely like anytime people have the chance to pay for that stuff, there's always there's a strong free marketing thing that happens that people don't like about it. Like they it's really funny because Windows gained a lot of popularity back when it first released because people were pirating it and using it on other devices, and even though that's what caused like a huge spike in Windows popularity, they like still shut it down, and they like have like all like they locked down like their whole OS to like physical hardware that they sell to you past that point because people were fucking pirating it. And it's just it's really interesting. It's so off topic though.
That's fine.
4, Zardoz. Have you ever seen Zardoz?
Can you send a poster or describe the plot?
I'll look up the poster while I describe the plot. Like,
Or actually, I can look it up here.
Okay, so Zardoz is a film starring
Sean Connery. It looks like
Sean Connery, yeah, and he is a bandolier wearing panty man who raids villages until he is abducted. They do a whole parody of it in Rick and Morty in the episode where with Gazorpazorp.
Oh, I see. I've never heard of this, but this is, so is this like a so bad it's good sort of thing? Because it looks very cheesy from the cover.
I think it's a good movie. I don't even think it's so bad it's good. I think it's objectively good, but there's a part at the end where it gets really loud, sort of like Carrie gets really loud for like 10 minutes in the movie. It has a really loud part where it's like hard to listen to, but that's like the rest of the movie I think is like so fucking original and amazing and like surreal, and it's like a science fiction story in a way because the setting is a enclave of people who have figured out immortality, and they live in these little like bubbles, and they like grow their own food, and they're like little self-sufficient places, and it's where all like the rich and the smart people went before like major like droughts and starvation and like apocalypse on the outside of the places. So there's like a post-apocalypse Earth, like modern Earth, like with buildings and stuff that are decayed and stuff outside, where there are like raiders going around on horses, like attacking people, and then there are the rich people in their immortality bubbles.
I'll have to check this out. I do love old movies. I try to watch as much stuff as I can because I've always said like the way to get better at writing or storytelling in general is to watch as much storytelling shit as you possibly can. Like obviously, but and also I want to add a movie to mine because talking about I mentioned is it so bad or good? And it reminded me my actual favorite movie of all time. Not because it's good, but because it's a movie I've seen more than any other movie of all time. And I'll send a poster. It's a movie called Love on a Leash. This is the worst film ever made. And I say that objectively. It is objectively the worst film ever made.
You know, I actually know about this film.
It goes around in circles. So I'll send a picture of it. It's a movie about a woman who falls in love with a dog. And I can tell you some details about this movie. The guy who voices the dog.
Let's get a synopsis.
So it's a woman falls in love with a dog, but there's so many twists and turns. There's probably 10 subplots, and I would describe the subplot to explain why they're funny and why they're so random, but it would actually ruin the movie. Like, I recommend going in sort of blind. But things I will tell you, the dog has voiceover when it's a dog, and the dog's personality when he's a dog is completely different. Oh, the dog turns into a human sometimes, like Beauty and the Beast sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the personality when he's a human is wildly different than the personality when he's a dog. And so the dog personality was dubbed by a guy who came in after the movie was over. He wasn't given a script. He was just shown the movie. And they told him to just dub the dog. And they paid him in noodles. And this is true. And that guy went on to be famous. I don't know if you've ever heard of the show Big Time Rush. It was like
I have heard of that.
You know the character Gustavo? He's like their manager. He's like their fat manager guy.
I don't think I've seen it recently enough to know characters.
I never watched it, but I know that guy is
that's Love on
the dog.
Leash.
That was his first film. So Love on a Leash though. So the dog is making fun of the movie the whole time. Like he's calling the woman names. He's making fun of the background. And I don't think the woman who made the movie, she funded the film under the pretense that it was a religious film from a Chinese church. And then they saw cuts of the movie about 3/4 of the way through and realized it's obviously not religious, like at all. It's about a woman having sex with a dog, literally. Yeah. Not really, but like, and it's very horny. The movie, extremely horny, and it is genuinely like I've never laughed harder in my life than the first time I watched Love on a Leash. It is one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, and it doesn't have a fucking soundtrack. Yeah, no score.
No music. But actually, recently, because I followed the lore of Love on a Leash, a version with a soundtrack was discovered. She just chose not to release it, which is why a soundtrack guy is credited in the credits. It was always a mystery. So there is a version with sound you can find. Yes. I think it's free on YouTube.
I learned about it because of Whitest Kids You Know. They did a whole bit about it, and
I found it from this old YouTuber called Ralph Seppi, who was Ralph the Movie Maker, and he made a review of this movie. and it was fucking hilarious. I watched it after that, and since then I've gone on to find all kinds of movies like this.
Yeah,
But
I
this is
saw
still the
them
best one.
watching the like the credits, and it credited a score guy,
The
and
sound
they were
guy,
like, "What
yeah,
the fuck?"
yeah, yeah. It is genuinely one of the funniest movies ever. Like, I'll tell you one thing that happens in the movie, and you're not gonna believe me. The woman, someone attempts to SA the woman in her house to not avoid YouTube censorship, right? Like full on SA her, like real bad, the bad word, rape, you know. And the dog comes in and chases the guy off and sings a song about how awesome he is for having done it, while the girl cries and wails in the background. And they play that for comedy. And it's so
What?
incomprehensible that and that's like one thing that happens in the first 20 minutes of the movie. It's like there's shit like that constantly.
I might have
That's
to
just like a
actually watch
standout.
it
Oh,
now.
it's a transformative experience.
That's
So yeah,
that is
I'll definitely
so,
add this to my top 5. Not
yeah,
because
that
it's good
is,
stuff.
yeah, that's
This is like when I watch all my bargain bin movies. This is what I'm trying to find. Another
yeah.
movie like this. I don't think it exists, but
Well, and I have
who knows?
noticed that like there's a big proliferation of like really shitty movies showing up at every single store. Like there's like always like a little
Yes.
bin full of like tiny like
The key
movies
is
that
to find
just
the really old ones, because the new ones they're like made to be shitty. But films
yeah.
like this, they were made on accident. That's the best ones. The ones where the film was made completely on accident and no one intended to make a good. They were trying to make a good movie, and it's the sincerity that makes it funny. I don't know how else to describe it, but it really is just that.
Okay.
It's the sincerity that makes it funny.
What's your favorite gangster movie?
The Departed, probably,
The Departed?
or The Godfather. It's got to be The Godfather, actually. Maybe The Godfather Part 2, technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those three.
The Departed is a modern one. The Godfather is like period piece. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
But they're both really good. I'll have to check those
They're both
out.
very good.
My favorite would be Blood In, Blood Out.
I've never heard of it.
It's
Sorry, man. I've never
no, it's fine. We're trading knowledge here.
Mhm.
But it's a movie about Mexican street gangs that eventually become prison
like
gangs.
Sicario, kind of, but
Never seen Sicario. Maybe.
isn't that the cartel? But yeah, whatever. Sure, yeah.
I don't think
The
they were
Blood In, Blood
cartel.
Out?
No, like Mexican street gangs as in Mexican American street gangs. So like LA, like MS-13
what
stuff.
do they call that? There's a term for yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Except
Sure,
like
I'll
a
check that out.
fictionalized version. It's like low.
We have those. I mean, I'm in Texas. Those exist. Like we
Yeah.
have like quasi cartel here. Not huge because it's the states, obviously, but like
Yeah.
it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. I think it's sort of like supposed to be like a fictionalized version of like the creation of like the American like vein for Mexican cartels to operate through, like through Mexican street
Yeah,
gangs and stuff.
yeah. That's obviously a huge talking point. Now I'll have
Yeah.
to check that out.
Yeah. But it's really cool. It humanizes the gangsters, which I think is really cool. And then
Yeah,
it
that's
shows,
what The Godfather does so well too.
It shows like the main character, he's corrupted by all of it. Like every good gangster movie. I would suggest watching it, but you got to have like 3 hours to burn because it's a lot.
Same with The Godfather. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll also give you another recommendation if you ever watch
Yeah.
The Godfather and you enjoy it. There's a TV show called The Offer that's just been made, and it's a movie about the making of The Godfather. But the people who made The Godfather, that was when the Italian Rights Defense League was like huge, and the mafia was like funding it, and they were going after anyone making mafia movies. So the mafia tried to whack the people making The Godfather, and then through a bunch of weird scenarios, the people making The Godfather wind up in bed with the mafia. This really happened.
Okay.
And so the mafia was like a consultant on the movie, but they were being lied to about what was in the movie. So there's a whole TV show about it now, and it's actually really incredible. It's got Miles Teller, and it's like worth watching.
Wow. When would that be set, and when was The Godfather released? 79, 78?
Something like Francis Ford Coppola. Let's find out. I know the movie is set in like the 50s, but the movie came out in 72.
Okay.
72. Yeah.
So that's cool. So
like
it's like a loose sequel.
Yeah. So Paramount was like about to fail apparently at that time. And obviously The Godfather was a massive hit, so it saves the company. But they were so desperate to get a movie made that they were willing to like deal with the mafia shit, basically. And they got in bed with like some really famous
big
gangsters.
money. Although it would be like That was like the peak of like gangsters being scary. Like they were blowing up
yeah.
people with cars and shit,
Oh yeah.
like and getting away with it. So I don't think I
Yeah.
would want to be involved with the mafia even for a
No,
film. But
I don't
I
fuck with
mean,
crime at all. I'm not into any of that shit. I would avoid
no,
that like the plague.
no. Yeah, I'm like a hermit. I'm a hermit who stays on the internet, and I have I clean my house. I'm responsible for cleaning my
The
house.
one nice thing about Texas when it comes to gang crime is that everyone here is strapped. Like
Yeah.
literally everyone here is
Mhm.
strapped. So like you don't anytime you're in like a supermarket, you always trust that there's going to be some old cowboy two aisles down who's strapped to the teeth.
Yeah.
And if something happens, he'll fucking do something about it.
Yeah,
So the
it's
gangs are low profile here, but they
mutually
exist, and
assured destruction.
there's it's all sort of deviated to certain parts of the city here, but I don't know. I guess it's that way most places. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It depends. It's a whole like it's a
yeah,
whole
for
thing.
sure.
But uh, so I found the perfect news stories to talk with you about.
Okay, I'm
Um,
down for this.
and so I'm gonna read this article and get your comments on it. So I'm also gonna share it so you can see that it's real and I'm not just making it up.
Oh, I've seen some wacky shit, man. Be hard.
How funny
It'd
would
be
it
hard
be
to
if I
trick me.
just started reading the craziest? How funny would it
If
be if
you could
this
do
was
like
an
a two articles
HTML
that are real,
page?
one that's fake.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So here's the real reason why Batgirl was shelved according to Warner Bros. Discovery.
Oh boy.
During a Q2 earnings call on August 4th, Warner Bros. CEO David Zaslav gave some more insight behind his shocking decision to shelve Batgirl, a nearly completed $90 million film starring Dominican American actress Leslie Grace in the title superhero role. And then Batgirl News is mad in a tweet. We're not. Have you noticed that all news is tweets now?
Yeah, I hate that.
We're not going to launch a
Actually,
movie.
and if you try to read like an article, it makes you pay like $8. So
Yeah.
annoying. Like there's still people
12
who read. Hello.
foot.io. 12 foot IO. 12
Yeah.
foot.io. We're not going to launch a movie until it's ready, Zaslav said when asked specifically about Batgirl getting canceled. We're not going to launch a movie to make a quarter, and we're not going to put a movie out unless we believe in it. On Tuesday,
Honestly,
August 2nd. Oh, yeah. What do you got?
I was gonna say I wouldn't surprise me if this movie is awful. Like it
Yeah.
would not surprise me at
Maybe.
all, based on what was coming out of DC at the time and a lot of the drama behind the scenes. I still
Maybe.
want to see it.
I think they should release every steaming hot pile of shit because that's their job.
Amen, brother. Yeah, I think it's a failing on their part if they let it get that far, and it really is that big of a
Right, exactly. Yeah, because there's still an audience for that. I don't think superhero movie viewers are so discerning that you need to be shelving movies because you don't think that
I think
standard.
that's changing. I think it's getting more so because like
Yeah.
like the Suicide Squad, the shitty one, made like $1 trillion. It made like a fortune, and then the later one, I mean, the brand damage was done, so it didn't do very well. And I think it was also COVID probably played a part in that. But then like you look at other movies that like should have cleared tons of money based on how movies were doing, and audiences were just like, "Oh, it's bad. I'm not going to see it." Like The Marvels was a great example. Very boring movie.
Yeah.
Very lame.
Eternals.
Yeah, same thing. At least that was kind of weird. Like they were taking some weird risks.
It was a little different, but it
wasn't different enough. Yeah. And so like, and then they're acting all surprised that these things flop. Like, who the fuck wanted that?
Yeah.
Like the Eternals. And it's not interesting. It's not a good movie. So
yeah, get a guy that wears a weird suit and beats up street villains. I'm tired of this universal fucking dimensional battle bullshit.
I mean, I can tell you, I made a video. I'm going to lock in a prediction right here. There's a movie coming up called The Thunderbolts. And it's the Marvel version of the Suicide Squad, basically. That's a very loose. What they are in the comics are super villains pretending to be superheroes to infiltrate the Avengers and steal their data. So they're pretending to do good, and some of them start to like it. And there's this like, will they become good guys or will they become bad guys?
So
and you've got like, and then they infiltrate the Avengers while pretending. Yeah, it's a really good run. The new version that they're making for Marvel, I'm locking in. It's going to be horrible. It is nothing but Black Widow like spy characters. They're not pretending to be superheroes. They're anti-heroes. It's a complete misfire on what the concept is supposed to be. And apparently they're going to be fighting the Sentry, who I don't know if you've heard of him. He's mildly known. He's Marvel's Superman. So they've got like Black Widow's sister, Winter Soldier, Ghost from the Ant-Man movie, and they're gonna fight Superman apparently. And I think it sounds fucking awful. I can't wait to see it.
What? What?
I have no idea. It's a complete fucking disaster.
Yeah, that sounds like someone is like literally like they have one of those bingo things with that turn and they're picking out bingo balls with characters and plot lines
exactly.
on it.
And I'm interested in this movie in particular because I wrote my own version of it. Two of them actually.
You did have that on your page, huh?
Yeah, so this is going to be the first time I've written something, and then someone else has adapted it after I have. So I get to see if I'm better or not. It's going to be really interesting.
I gotta listen to that so I can watch it like with your story in mind. So on Tuesday, he broke the internet when reports started rolling in that Batgirl would not be released on HBO and would be a tax write-off to recoup the cost of the money. He defended his decision by discussing the shift in focus that the studio was taking with a merger of HBO Max and Discovery Plus, should be illegal, into a single streaming service that will launch next summer. He also talked about a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. Warner Bros. Owns the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman properties. These are brands that are known everywhere in the world, he said, and as part of that, we're going to focus on quality. DC is something that we think we can make better, and we're focused on it now. Didn't they release The Flash? Didn't they still release The Flash?
The Flash had been filmed like 4 years before.
Okay.
And so they were like... So since the new leadership, only 3 things from DC have released. Blue Beetle, The Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker. And all 3 of those are okay. Blue Beetle's all right. The other 2 are pretty goated. And those are all under James Gunn. So James Gunn is now taken over, and I suspect the quality will go up pretty high. He's pretty consistent.
Guardians James of the Galaxy Gunn is like their new Zack Snyder.
Kevin Feige, or more like their new Kevin Feige, because Zack Snyder was bad at his job. I'll say it. I know there's a lot of people who love Zack Snyder. There's like a whole contingent of Snyderites. I don't like Zack Snyder's stuff at all. I
watched the Rebel Moon movie, and my jaw was dropping in disbelief by how like much slow motion was in one film.
Oh, dude,
it is so awful. Exhausting. I didn't know that you were allowed to do that. I thought you legally had to show people talking. It was
like we knew what was going to happen. The whole reason Zack Snyder agreed to do the Justice League movie was because The Flash was in it, and he had an excuse to do as much slow mo as he wanted. Like that was what it was right off the bat.
That makes perfect sense.
That he read the contract and he's like, "Oh fuck! I get to make Batman kill people, and I get to do slow mo scenes. I'm fucking in." And complete misfire, and they were surprised that it flopped eventually. I don't know.
Yeah, the bonus scene in the Snyder Cut where
I actually like the Snyder Cut. That was the thing that surprised me the most.
Where the Joker threatens to give Batman a reach around.
Oh, dude, Jared Leto's Joker. Like, who approved that? Like, I want to be the fly on the wall when the studio approved that shit.
Zack Snyder was beating someone with a fucking switch off a tree.
He's damaged. He's damaged. Okay, so hopping off this, have you heard of the Ayer cut?
No.
Okay, so the Ayer cut. So David Ayer made Suicide Squad, the first one, the really awful one. And he's fully contended that his movie is actually incredible. That it's like this magnum opus that, like the Snyder Cut. And so he tried to win everyone over by leaking script pages. And they are somehow worse than the script pages that were already in the movie. They are like bizarre, and they're super strange and awful. And I can't even remember what was in them. I remember that like King Shark hired Deadshot to kill the guy at the beginning of the movie that led to him getting on the team. And it's supposed to be a big twist that King Shark is apparently, or not King Shark, Killer Croc was like a drug kingpin who's secretly running the streets. It was like something really dumb. And there's like all these bad ideas. And you're like, how could you have possibly made the movie worse than it already was?
I watched that in theaters and I fell asleep.
I watched it in theaters and was just like, huh. I'd never heard of the Suicide Squad before that, and that got me to go home and read the comics because I like the idea. And boy, the comics are better.
And I was so excited in the first 4 minutes of the movie because they kill off a whole Suicide Squad and then they get the new Suicide Squad, and I was just like,
"Oh no, that's the second one."
Oh,
think
is
you're
that the
thinking of the
second?
second one.
Is that in the
That's the
second
second
one?
one. That's in the second one. The first one only has 6 characters, and they only kill one of them.
But I haven't seen this. Don't they kill Brad Pitt? Isn't Brad Pitt in the first one and he dies? He's invisible guy and he falls into
That's
a
Deadpool 2. I think.
Deadpool. God damn it! So I didn't like that movie at all then.
Yeah. So yeah, Suicide
Because
Squad
I'm thinking
2
of a whole
is,
different movie, and I'm just like, yeah, that's what I
Suicide Squad
liked
2
about
does the
it.
same gimmick. Like they have the opening scene of this like team that they introduce for like 15 minutes, and then they all die horribly instantly, and it's very funny.
So do I remember a single? I remember Will Smith wearing
That's the
an
first one.
eyepiece.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all I remember about the first one, and I remember the plot because I've gone back and watched it when I was writing my stuff to see like what not to do, and I remember the editing is just awful. Like I don't know how a professionally made movie has editing so terrible. It's like genuinely horrible. And then it came out that they hired a trailer editing house to edit the movie, so the whole movie's edited like a movie trailer, and that
Okay.
explains so much. And I don't know. Again, this is the same executives at Warner Brother who approved that have shelved movies for a tax write-off. Like that's a good
Yeah.
idea. You know who's
Yeah.
really going to want to come to your studio now? Directors to make movies. Yeah, they're real excited to come to the studio where their stuff is guaranteed to get shelved for a tax write-off. They've just lost all their talent.
Do you think they could make any type of good argument for doing something like that ever?
I think if the movie is genuinely that horrible and they know it's going to be a flop, I suspect Batgirl might have been that. I don't know why. Just like a gut feeling. I don't have any evidence. Just kind of a vibe I get.
Yeah.
But the other one, I think it was Coyote versus Acme. From all
Yeah.
accounts, that's a good movie. Like
Yeah.
reviewers saw it. It was good.
The early screenings were supposedly like really good too. Like everybody
Were really
liked it.
good. I heard the opposite for Batgirl, but for that one, I have no idea why. I couldn't tell you why. I can't
Well,
make an argument for it.
And I didn't save the article, but while I was looking for it, I didn't want to talk about two different shelf movies and articles in the same thing. But I did read an article where they were talking, but it's from 2023, so it's new news probably happened since then. But they were talking about Warner Bros. Gave them the go ahead to shop it with other studios, but that was a whole year ago.
And then nothing came of it, and then they binged the movie.
Bullshit.
So I don't know.
It's fucked up.
It's bullshit. It's real stupid. And I actually think with all the drama they've built up, if they actually release the thing, I think it would do really well.
Yeah,
I actually do, because there's a lot of
Batgirl would do well since they tried to shelf it. They should just.
I think Batgirl is going to stay shelved now because they're rebooting DC.
Yeah,
and that would be confusing. I think that's going to stay shelved forever unless it leaks. When that could happen. That could happen.
Has that? Do you know of an example of like a full movie leaking from a studio like that?
Deadpool, they filmed 15 minutes of footage for the movie to show the board of executives. They said it was terrible and that no one would ever like Deadpool. So they Ryan Reynolds leaked the footage, and it led to the movie being made because the fan reaction was so positive. And the sequence was amazing. I can't believe the studio execs saw it and were like, "Oh, it's going to be a disaster." So
yeah, they were like,
obviously they were super wrong.
They were like comic book nerds and meta humor. Yeah, right. Get out of here.
What they were like is R-rated superhero.
Yeah,
come on, but like all comics are like, R-rated.
Don't you know all comic book fans are 12? They can't even watch that yet.
You know what 12-year-olds love is R-rated movies. Like, unironically.
You know, 12-year-olds grow up after 40 years of comic books. Like it's like they forget that there's generations of comic book nerds. Like
also, I think a lot of comic books are super violent, and that's never really. Actually, I will say
that's what they watch them for.
That's what I like about Deadpool and Wolverine is it's so violent and over the top, and it was really nice to see that in a comic book movie again.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
They do more of that. I was charmed by it. It was surprisingly okay. I think it's action and some of its goofier cameos are really what pulls the whole thing together. But
I heard you had to know like a lot of like development knowledge to truly enjoy the film.
There's a lot of in jokes about like canceled projects, like characters from movies that never existed appear.
Yeah, like Channing Tatum playing Gambit was supposed to be like an old movie.
There's some other ones that appear that are like just characters that never existed, and I think that's funny. Like that's really charming.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, especially with the Deadpool IP is like, let's get whatever characters we can throw into our next movie. Like they don't seem to like care about continuity or being very discerning with who they pick for each movie.
I think what worked about the cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine is that they were all characters no one gives a shit about, that were like forgotten characters from bad movies, and that makes them funny when they show up. Unlike something like Multiverse of Madness, where the cameos are sort of annoying because they're characters that you like, but they don't have any right to be in that particular movie. A horrible reject superhero from the 90s appearing in, obviously only one or two of the characters apply that. There's one character that I can't say that to, or people lynch me. But that makes it interesting to me, like as a cameo. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
I
think
kind of. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna mumble some bullshit.
I'm just kind of worried that back to the canceled movies. I think this is going to be a trend going forward. I think you're going to see it happen more and more until some kind of oh my god, legislation gets put in place.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Just like, hey, tax dollars shouldn't be going to bail out your turd movie you produce.
It shouldn't, like, it should be against the rules intuitively. It should have been like they went to go file the paperwork and someone was like, you can't do that.
I don't know. I'm kind of a libertarian. I don't want to get political, but I'm kind of a libertarian. So on the whole, I'm against government interference. But when it comes to this one specific thing, I'm like, this is really stupid. Why should the government ever interfere in?
Yeah. Well, if there's
Warner Brothers.
If there's any good use that everyone can agree on with a government, it's like basic regulations to keep fucking things.
Yes, basic regulations is the key word. Yeah, but we shouldn't be. How fucking Warner Brothers, because they made Batgirl and it turned out to be a stinker. I mean, no.
No, that's wild. It should be like your business can earn a certain amount a year before you're just like you can't just get tax breaks on big purchases like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point you're just like gambling with like everybody else's money.
Well, I mean, and I kind of get it. Like, if the government really will give you $150 million to put this movie in a shelf, there's no risk to losing on money. You think it's going to be a flop. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Sure, I mean, it builds a lot of bad will, but when you think about it like that, you're like, I kind of understand why the studio did it.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, and it's legal. Anyone would do it. I mean, if you owned a movie studio, you would probably do it for some projects. It just probably wouldn't be the biggest project, and everybody knows about it that you're shelving. You know, like
oh man, I'd be
movie
evil.
studios,
I'd be like a super villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you guys give me a tiny amount of power, I'm going to go full on evil. I'm going to be like Mr. Beast. No sleep challenge. How many directors' projects can I ruin? I'm going to come in and go, yeah, here's the deal, director. This isn't going to work. I'm thinking about redubbing the whole movie and just changing the plot. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm just going to do that not because I want to, but because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's just what's going to happen. So
I want this
let me get in power.
To now have a different bad. Make one of the people that are with the main character the whole time the bad guy now. Just figure it out.
Yeah. You have some shots of his back. Yeah. Throw some dialogue over that. Yeah. That'll fucking work. Yeah.
Yeah. Make a big cliffhanger at the end so people want more of it.
For context, Madam Web has sequences where the villain just stares out over New York and then gives dialogue for like 3 minutes. It's like his back is to the camera. He's like, I am going to destroy the world. And it sounds like he's like recording in a can. And all you see is the back of his head.
Yeah, that's got it. I think your theory is onto something.
Oh, I'm 100% right. And in fact, I found interviews from early on. This will be in the video. I found interviews early on where they talk about the original plot. And it's extremely different.
Yeah. The screenings probably said it was bad and they made it worse. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you in the mood for a good murder mystery?
Yeah.
I tried to read this earlier and I did not understand the conclusion. Rust Ricochet, film's ammo provider, questions new bullet evidence that derailed trial.
Oh, yes. Okay. This is about the guy who got shot in the Cowboy movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
They mistook blanks for live rounds. And I know we're not allowed to show guns on YouTube anymore, but I could show you a blank round versus a real round, and they look completely fucking different. There's no way this was an accident, in my opinion. It's fucking wild.
Well, and I think the biggest argument that Alec Baldwin ever had was just he's an actor and he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. But
no, he was the producer of the movie. He hired the person. That was where the connection.
And that's where this article sort of gets deeper into it. So, I think you'll probably be able to follow this information better. So I'll read it. From the moment law enforcement arrived on the movie set where the Rust shooting occurred, how exactly the live rounds got there was a key focus of the investigation. For years, The prosecution maintained they likely came from the armorer, who was convicted in March for involuntary manslaughter. But then a so-called Good Samaritan came forward with evidence of a contradictory theory that led to the abrupt dismissal of the criminal case against Alec Baldwin. A familiar name again resurfaced: Seth Kenny, owner of the props and arms supplier that furnished the Rust production with ammunition and weapons. Testimony from a crime scene technician revealed that new ballistics evidence emerged of rounds which may have come from the same source as the bullet that struck cinematographer Helena Hutchins. So it was a woman, it was a cinematographer. Um, Baldwin's lawyer said this ammunition implicates Kinney in the introduction of live rounds to the set and was deliberately hidden from them. The Good Samaritan, later revealed to be retired Arizona police officer Troy Teskey, a friend of Gutierrez Reed's father, the longtime Hollywood armorer Thel Reed, brought a sample of
Holy
the
shit.
ammunition to the sheriff's office. At least one of these rounds appeared to have starline brass casing that matched a live bullet that killed Hutchins. That batch, Baldwin attorney Alex Spiro said, came from Kinney and Reed and was used by the cast members on the Paramount Plus Western 1883 for a so-called cowboy training camp run by the duo, in which live ammunition was used for shooting practice. Teskey came into possession of it through Reed, who stored some of his arms at the new law enforcement officer's home. At the former law enforcement officer's home. Kinney also
Give me
brought
2 seconds. I'm going to grab something real fast.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll show you exactly what he's talking about.
Okay. Kinney also brought some of those rounds back to PDQ Arm and Prop in New Mexico. So Armor's new trial request. So she's requesting a new trial. So hopefully she gets off. That sucks that she went to jail over that.
I'm not showing a gun, so this should be all right.
Okay.
So I have a cowboy revolver that I use on my ranch. So
okay.
The ammunition I shoot is a 45 Colt. So look at how big the fucking bullet on the. This is probably pretty similar to what he had in set. Look at how big the fucking bullet on the top is.
Yeah.
In a blank, that's going to be tiny. There's no fucking way. And this is super heavy also because it's a lead bullet. There's no fucking way he didn't know. I'm telling you, it was a fuck up on his end for sure.
Yeah.
Someone on the set
and
fucked up.
I think like manslaughter for the guy who pulled the trigger isn't a crazy thing to say.
No, I think I don't know about manslaughter for the actor. It's like I think about the movie The Crow, the 1994 one. Something similar happened there. It was a blank in that movie, but they held it up to his head.
Yeah.
And blank still released gas, and it was enough to fucking kill the guy because you're not supposed to fucking do that. So, but they didn't charge that guy with manslaughter because he didn't do anything. Like, he wasn't trying to kill the guy. There was no intent.
Yeah.
So I don't think Alex Baldwin should be charged unless he was in charge of safety on the set, which he might have been. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think they're just coming to the conclusion that he hired a really sketchy arms company.
Bad, lazy, but maybe not criminal.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And I don't I'm not a big like go to prison guy unless like you need to, and so like if you accidentally kill someone, I think like there's like very little reason to put anybody in prison for accidentally doing something.
I think
like
it depends. Like if you're drunk driving or something.
If you're drunk driving, I think when you get in the wheel drunk, you are like you're like basically
loading a gun.
Yeah, you're loading a fucking gun. Like so.
And I think the same could be said for this guy who put live bullets in the mix of blanks. He's
exactly.
literally loading a gun.
And
I think he should go to prison.
I want to go to this so the rest of it is just a whole bunch of talking about like going back and forth between people like saying things, but then right here. Okay, Reed had roughly 300 live Colt 45 rounds and brought some with Kinney for shooting practice on 1883, the Paramount Western, just prior to production starting for Rust, while leaving the rest in Teskey's garage. After the training camp, Kinney took the ammunition that was left over with him to his New Mexico arms and prop house. In a call to CPL, I don't know, Corporal Alexandria Hancock, the lead investigator on the case, Kinney expressed that the deadly round at the center of the Rust case could have originated from his batch of ammunition. Kinney acknowledged that both he and Swanson were worried this was the case and that it was hard to believe it came from anywhere else, according to the sheriff's report. Reed separately informed the sheriff's office that Kinney kept the ammo container and the rest of the live rounds after the 1883 training was over, but law enforcement only executed a search warrant on PDQ Arm and Prop 4 weeks after Hutchins' death at which point the container was discovered without any rounds sporting Starline brass casings. There's no explanation as to where the remainder of the live rounds went or what Seth did with them, stated the person who got charged with its lawsuit. The sheriff's report, which features a catalog of evidence under testing, indicates that neither DNA nor fingerprint analysis was performed on the live rounds. And the craziest thing about this, it was later revealed that Poppel lied about the Teskey-supplied ammunition not matching the rounds found on the Rust set in testimony from Hancock, who agreed with Baldwin's lawyer that the crime scene technician's assertion was completely false. Morrissey said that she didn't realize that there were rounds that looked like that. Morrissey explained the first time she learned that Teskey had ammunition that looked similar to the rounds uncovered on the Rust set, all belonging to Reed, was in open court the day the court dismissed Baldwin's case. It is highly suspect Mr. Teskey provided photos of rounds in November 2021 and January 2024 of rounds that are completely dissimilar to the live rounds found on the set of Rust, confirming in writing in November 2021 that he was unable to locate any rounds with nickel primers, and then on March 6, 2024, he dropped off rounds similar to those from Rust. She wrote in a filing opposing the new trial for Gutierrez Reed. In court, Kenny questioned whether he was being made a scapegoat by Reed, Gutierrez's father, blah, blah, blah. But this person claimed to have no rounds that looked, if I'm understanding this right, he's saying he had no rounds that looked like that, and then later brought them in.
They literally said it's a 45 Colt. This is a 45 Colt. So again, the bullet is fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like, words cannot express how fucking big this thing is. This is a slugger. So
there's no saying, I didn't know he had rounds that looked like that.
You can feel that it's not a live round. Like the weight. And if she really is that incompetent, then oh my god, how was she ever licensed to do this? Because certainly there's licensing. You have to get licensed to have a firearm. I have to have a concealed carry to carry a gun. So certainly to be the prop department gun guy, you have to have a license.
Yeah, well, especially in I don't know where this was shot, but if it's in LA, you got to have a lot of licenses. Arizona. Well, then maybe it's a little looser there, but
I don't know.
But
yeah, it's crazy, man.
It's almost like a lot of
the
armor people who did the fuck up and led to this bullet getting into the hands of Baldwin, really just kind of knew they fucked up and tried to sweep away the evidence while they could. At least that's the impression I got.
What it seems like to me. Yeah.
Do you think they should be using real guns still, on sets like that?
Fake ones tend to look really bad.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of movies with fake guns, and they don't look great.
What you can do, and this won't make smoke come out of the gun. The thing that's nice about a blank is, and again, I don't really use blanks because what's the point? I'm not making a movie. But they still smoke and make a loud noise. So for on-set audio and visuals, it's nice. But we have CGI now. It's more expensive, but safety. So what you could do is, I can't show you my gun. Sorry. You could have a real firearm, and then sand down the firing pin so that even when you shoot it, pop, 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 it won't fire. Because the firing pin goes into the back of the bullet and makes it fire.
Okay.
So if you sand down the firing pin, then it's not going to fire because it won't pop the bullet.
Yeah.
Or in that case, if you're not putting blanks in it, just don't load the thing. Sand down the firing pin, leave it on safety. It's not going to fire.
Yeah.
Keep your finger up, and then you can wheel it around or whatever you want.
I like that idea. So you're thinking just do it in post. I think that there's a good market to be had for a engineer that's willing to make hyper realistic prop guns that do the popping and the smoke, and that's all they do,
And I think that's what blanks are. And again,
yeah, but that's such old timey technology, right?
We have it if it ain't broke, And I think also the fact that there were live rounds on set is absurd. That's the first rule with these things, because there are people who don't know the difference between a blank and a real round, and it can be hard to tell. Maybe not with a Colt 45, but with
a trained armorer.
Yeah, they should definitely know the difference. Which makes me wonder if it was it's kind of conspiracy theory, but allegedly that there could be some malice behind it, and I don't think so, because from what it seems, it genuinely was an accident.
Or even if it there's still allegedly some room for it to be Baldwin if he just had a bullet in his coat and he was is this a blank?
Baldwin all along. That's the plot twist in the third act.
Yeah.
Baldwin with the
It turns out he got away with the perfect crime by hiring incompetent people. Have you seen the movie
The Usual Suspects?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I can't spoil that movie, but
I gotta,
okay. For
I
people
gotta
who have
like
seen the
write
usual suspects,
lists
they're
when I
gonna get
talk
my
to you.
yeah, the usual suspects. For people who have seen the usual suspects, you get that joke. But yeah, no, for sure. It's I don't know. It's interesting. I definitely think that it's just negligence, but like, I come on. I can do a better job at your job than you, and I'm not even trained to do it.
Yeah, well, probably more gun experience than most actors, but
Probably, yeah.
and probably near the same amount as a lot of armorers in Hollywood
Oh, I
specifically.
wouldn't go about that. A lot of those armors are supposed to be able to like take apart guns and stuff, and I can clean a gun, but I can't. I don't know how they work outside of the basics. I couldn't rig one up. I wouldn't know how to sand down a firing pin. I just know that you can do it. If that makes any sense?
Okay, so the armor actually like they take it apart.
I'm assuming they modify weapons. Yeah, I would assume
Okay.
so. That would make sense to me. Because like, let's say you want to make like a custom gun, like John Wick has kitted out guns. Like you need an armorer who knows how to make a kitted out gun, how to put on a suppressor,
Yeah.
how to put on an extended mag, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean there were allegations in that article that I didn't read over about the one of those armory guys, maybe not the I think one of the people that were in the company and not Gutierrez, who was the actual armorer on set, but it was saying that he like was using like studio money on a different project to fucking buy his own guns or something like that, like buy
Oh,
personal
no.
weapons for himself. Yeah, so I think it's one of the sketchy company guys that just
Yeah, it just sounds like a mess.
yeah.
I don't think that company is going to survive this ordeal, though.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I hope not. They should just find new work.
Now, speaking of lost media, here's the real question: are we going to get to see Rust? I think everyone like the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen.
Yeah.
When we watch the movie Rust and what's his face points a gun towards the camera. Oh, up. There it is. Got it. That's the scene. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that movie will ever see the light of day. I didn't think they finished it.
If it came out, people would like immediately write like creepypastas about it being a cursed movie. It wouldn't.
I mean, there are movies where people die. I know there's a movie,
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, where an actor was run over by a tank on set, and it's in the movie. Like you can see his head getting run over.
That's awful.
Yeah.
The worst one I know about is Twilight Zone and how fucking.
Oh yes, the
a
fucking
very prolific
helicopter
director,
crash.
very I forget his name, but a very prolific director, very famous, respected in
Max
Hollywood.
Landis.
Yeah, Adam Landis.
And his son,
Max Landis is
and his
the
son Max Landis is also controversial. I know he's a very controversial guy too. I don't know what for, but these people can't. These Hollywood types,
Yeah.
they just can't not be horrible for 2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to the end. So what are your
for sure.
what are your plugs? What do you want to promote at the end of the show here?
Just my YouTube channel is fun. If
Okay.
you all want to check it out, that's cool. I write a lot of nerdy shit. I have a lot of variety, so if you don't like one script, maybe try another one. I do have a Western, so if you like Westerns, you can check that out. I have Deadlands, which is a supernatural fantasy Western series based on a tabletop game that I enjoy that no one has ever heard of. So,
Okay. And I'm gonna talk to you for a couple minutes afterwards, but I'm gonna end the normal show here.
all right, bye guys.
That's the show. That's
Bjorn
the,
Does Movies. Check me out.
Bjorn
All right,
Does
there you
Movies.
go.